Welcome to our community conversations on discovering McCall and the West Central Mountains. I'm Dr. Bryan Williams. I serve as president of McCall College, and I serve as the moderator of this series. McCall College is a local, specialized college offering meaningful education to our students of all ages. The motto of this particular series is Local Voices Addressing Local Issues. Many new people are arriving in our region. Orienting to a rural area in McCall is difficult for many of those individuals. This series will seek to help newcomers succeed in discovering McCall and our region. Local Voices will seek to offer crucial advice in the discovery process. Existing residents may also discover local features that they may have missed. Tonight, we've got a wonderful conversation for you. It's our third conversation, and if you hadn't had a chance to see any of our previous conversations, I'll invite you to do that at the end as well. But tonight, we've got Superintendent Eric Pingrey, who serves in McCall-Donnelly School District, and the topic of his conversation tonight will be succeeding at public education. Welcome, Superintendent Eric.
Thank you for having me.
It is a joy, and you're fairly new to this community, so can you give us a sense of an introduction of yourself and your family, and what have you discovered about McCall already that newcomers might also want to discover?
Okay, well, my name is Eric Pingrey, Superintendent of Schools. As far as an introduction of family, my wife, who is a math and science teacher, over 25 years in the classroom, teaching anywhere from middle school to college. My daughter just recently graduated a few weeks ago with a business administration degree, and my son is the reason we're in Idaho, and he's in Boise, and he is a journeyman electrician. As far as me, career administrator in public education, over 20 years of experience, primarily middle school, high school, and superintendency. And we are ecstatic to be in McCall-Donnelly area. It's from the Black Hills to the lakes of Minnesota. It's kind of, we love the resort life, the resort feel, the quality of people is really hard to beat. There's a special kind of person who lives in the mountains or in the lakes. It's just, so we've enjoyed the short time we've been here. Everything from the ATV trips to hiking like up to Louis Lake to we've just started doing the mushroom hunting. So it's
Have
great.
you found any?
Yes, yes, but I'm not supposed to say where, so.
There you go.
Yep.
And you've made the mistake already of asking people where they got their mushrooms.
Yes, I have.
And they look at you like, you should know better than to ask me for
Actually,
that.
about half and half.
Oh,
So
is
yeah,
it?
yep,
Okay.
yep,
Oh, well, welcome to our region. Do
Thank
you
you.
sense that the transition has been fairly easy, or has it been difficult for you personally?
Personally, my last school district, we started the pandemic and we were in the middle of the pandemic, and here transferring in to basically the third year of the pandemic, nothing is easy. This is as of last week, the director of Idaho Association of School Administrators told me that 35% of superintendents are turning over, and more so on the teacher side. So the pandemic really affected public education, affected everybody.
Sure.
But teachers took a huge burden these last 3 years and stepped up and took care of the country, in essence, and all the kids in the country. And so that part, the pandemic can go away. I won't complain about that. But the transition normally has been great. I have a wonderful staff. I have a wonderful administrative team.
Sure.
So I'm blessed in that end. So.
Now, tell us a bit more about your role here in McCall and regionally. I assume you may have some regional duties as well.
As far as McCall-Donnelly School District, I oversee all of the schools, PK-12. We have our schools: Barbara Morgan Elementary, Payette Lakes Middle School, McCall-Donnelly High School, Heartland High School, and then Donnelly Elementary School. And so that's my role here, and my role as a liaison to the community and as the representative and the spokesperson for the school. So regionally, I'm pretty actively involved in my superintendent's association. There's a Region 3 that encompasses pretty much the central south area. There's also a couple other organizations that we work with as far as legislative duties and being active in supporting public schools. And so,
very good. Now, I am so thankful because this is your high season. You are extraordinarily busy. So very thankful for you carving out some time for this conversation. And so you've got a graduation coming up, don't you?
Yes, we have 2 graduations coming up, Heartland High School and McCall-Donnelly High School. So
very good. Yeah. Why don't you make the distinction between Heartland and the high school? What's your sense of those two schools?
Okay, McCall-Donnelly High School is simply that. It's the district's main high school. Heartland High School is an alternative program that fits the need, whether it's a scheduling issue, whether it's an issue of credit recovery, whether it's something that you have a student who wants to do work and school. We have a bigger opportunity to accommodate the needs for students in those special instances with Heartland. So.
Excellent. Thank you. What's your most important issue concerning newcomers that you'd like to address tonight?
Housing issue is a huge issue.
Yeah.
We as a community and specifically us as a school also struggle with the ability to recruit and retain staff. We're actively focusing on addressing those issues, and as a matter of fact, the whole community I know is rolling up their sleeves and trying to come up with solutions on how do we keep the people that we need here, and how do we recruit great people so they can afford to live here. So
now your goal is to make it a little easier, I'm sure, for those that are struggling to get here. Are there any plans that you have to help make it easier for faculty that would like to join us?
Yes, we've established a committee to address the issue, and as a result of that, they've requested the board push forward with not only addressing and identifying funding methods for housing, and then secondary to that, we have some property next to the high school that we are in the plans of developing an actual 4-acre spot for staff housing. And the conversation stage has been going on, and now we're entering into the planning stage. So best case scenario, if everything goes well, there's a possibility of breaking ground in the spring. If things go well, and again, things have to go really well, we could be offering the ability to recruit staff and offer housing until they can find their own.
Oh, wouldn't that be wonderful?
That would be great.
What a great plan.
Mm-hmm.
I trust that is successful and quick. But knowing McCall.
Yes.
Now, walk us through your background a little bit, because you've come from an awful lot of rural settings. And I think that's helping you as you acclimate to McCall. But a lot of our newcomers don't come from rural settings. Can you so walk us through your background a little bit, and then from your perspective, what causes the friction between locals and newcomers? And give us your sense of that, both as a rural person, but also as a newcomer. What's happening there?
Yeah, my background, my father was in the military, career military, so we moved every 3 years, both coasts, Midwest, Europe, you name it. And so being the outsider coming in all the time was actually a great experience, but it was unique. And then my professional career, most of my experience has been in tourist/resort/ destination communities. Starting out in Custer, South Dakota, went to Wyoming for a while, a small town, very similar school district size, not necessarily a resort area in Wyoming there, but same size. And then moving to Minnesota, which it was a resort community on the 3rd largest lake with the lake homes and all that. And then coming to this resort community. So there is a uniqueness, and people are very protective of their home and very protective of this beautiful place that they don't want corrupted. And I've been there, I've been on the other side of it, and I'm like, So I think the passion that people have for their community is the reason that sometimes people from the outside are looked at a little differently. Like, you're not one of us yet. And I really like the yet part, because if someone comes into the community and becomes active and gets involved, that yet is a much shorter period of time.
And I'd like for you to speak to that sense of trust as well. Trust seems to be a quality that is hard to achieve in rural areas.
Mhm.
Could you speak to how that gets done?
I believe time takes care of a lot of trust issues. Uh, Having a history of small communities, it's tight knit. Quite often, your babysitter as a kindergarten is, sitting at your high school graduation, and so there's that family connection, and friends and family are blurred into just family. And you get someone from a larger metropolitan area who doesn't understand those relationships, who locks their houses, religiously, who doesn't walk away from their vehicles without locking them, looks over their shoulders. Those are some just behaviors that aren't normal in a small, tight-knit community. And so the behaviors and the personalities, I think, are a little different. And it just takes time for people that are coming in to go, wow, this is great. And then it takes time on the other end for the people to go, okay, we trust them now.
And that really is a goal of our conversation, is how do we speed up that process? Because it does take time. But if you know what people live like, then possibly it's easier to live like those in the community that you're joining. And I trust that is a good result from our conversation tonight and through the series. You mentioned the pandemic. We're hoping the pandemic is ebbing. It seems to be nudging up again in our community. We're double this week to where we were last week. Update us on the challenges of our schools during a public health crisis, and what have we learned, and do some future casting for us.
Okay. First, I truly hope this is over, but I don't believe it is. In the community, we're seeing it, and we're just starting to see a few cases come back around in the school. And so as far as we'll go right to the end there in the future casting, our recent conversations in our administrative meetings are, what is education going to look like tomorrow? We talk about rebuilding, and it's not about rebuilding. That was 3 years ago, and society has changed, education has changed, our outlook on how things are done are significantly changed. When you talk about differentiating your instruction to where you have technology based at home versus, in the classroom, so all these factors that were thrust upon public education during the pandemic, now we're being evaluated to see what is good from there. Okay, what can we use going in the future to make sure that kids are getting the best possible education? And so the depth and the breadth of the conversation is phenomenal right now, because it's not the status quo. And education historically likes to get stuck in a rut. Mm-hmm. And so this actually, I think some positives can come from this, and we can actually create a new educational environment that benefits all kids and communities. So
online learning has been a difficult pathway for most educators. The pandemic forced us to deal with it. Mm-hmm. Are you sensing any improvements in education that have come through the technology itself to make education better? Are we there with a lot of practice in online learning?
I am not a fan of online learning. Start with that. However, I think the online process can be beneficial when you look at it from a blended approach. You cannot beat a quality teacher, period. You look at any of the research, and the number one influence on student achievement is teacher efficacy. If you have a solid quality teacher, that's priceless. However, historically, when a student is sick, or there's a snow day, or there's some disruption, that was pretty much a day that learning is lost. So now, with a blended learning approach, you can use technology to possibly continue that learning at home. I don't think it's an answer. I don't think you want to set students behind computers for an extended period of time. But the resource and the technology that we have now We are, with the use of ESSER funds, we've added monitors and things in the classroom. So if a student is at home, they can be on the monitor, they can be watching the lesson.
Oh, very good.
There's technology that we are evolving into as we have these discussions on what tomorrow will look like. And so there's no replacement for a great teacher, but
Right.
there is support for when a student is not able to be in front of that teacher.
What percentage of classrooms in our district have that capacity of putting a student at home into the classroom?
With what we're doing right now, I'm not sure the percentage, but we're putting an emphasis on our elementary schools right now.
Excellent.
I believe after next year, all the classrooms will have the 80-inch displays. And so we're, as the old days where you have the overhead projector with the, well, then you step back at the microfiche, and you have the overhead projector and then the smart boards. And now we have the touchscreen interactive monitors. So we're evolving.
Yeah.
So
I think that's just a wonderful opportunity for kids that are going to be sick to still have some interaction.
Just to listen to the
or-
instruction, and then with the flipped classroom approach, a teacher can record their lesson with the technology available,
Sure.
and a student at home, because oftentimes you get a parent who is uncomfortable with teaching that lesson or understanding that lesson, especially with like math and science and some of that. So now we have the ability to take that lesson, record it, and have it available for a student and a parent to work through. So technology as a tool, I think, is a wonderful thing. Technology as the standalone, not the answer.
Good for you. Let's take our cameras a mile high and talk about the mission of the district. How would you define the mission of the McCall-Donnelly School District? And how well are we doing? Are we succeeding at our mission? Are we weak at accomplishing our mission? How are we doing? So mission and an evaluation.
Okay, mission verbatim, developing lifelong learners. Okay. That is a broad statement. And when you break down developing lifelong learners today, so that could mean quite a few things. And it's not all about college. It's not all about SATs. It's about teaching kids how to learn. And so I feel McCall-Donnelly School District historically has hit it out of the park. We've got a great community, a great bunch of kids, and a great set of teachers. So the pandemic has disrupted quite a bit. So our focus now is to take that and provide supports to the teachers. We're bringing in instructional coaches to really make sure that the teachers have the resources available to them to make sure they can differentiate to the students to teach the entire spectrum of student.
Instructional coach, just let me hone in on that. Is that a teacher to teachers?
That is job embedded professional development. That is creating a system where teachers get to work with teachers, get to observe other teachers, specifically on maybe it's an assessment strategy, maybe it's an instructional strategy. So, and then it's that coach facilitating that, okay, and saying, hey, classroom over here, they've got wonderful things going, wonderful results on this lesson. So then they're going to facilitate other teachers to draw from that. Plus, they're going to be able to present best practices. And so part of that is we have a mentor program and a new teacher program where every new teacher in the first 3 years is going to get job embedded professional development from veteran teachers in a system that is stemmed from best practices. So we're creating a model of excellence that can be replicated. So it's irrelevant if I'm in this seat or somebody else or a different teacher. We're building a system, and we're not basing it on success of people. We're going to, instead of pockets of greatness, we're going to have a school
Spread
of
it
greatness.
around.
Yes.
Excellent. Blow your own horn. How well are our schools doing?
Phenomenal.
What's that mean?
That means it amazes me that we continually grow on state assessments.
Okay.
And I'm not a fan of singling out test scores. I'm not a standardized test score supporter. We don't have standard kids. You know what I mean? But you have to have a bar to set. So standardized testing are that bar. One example, it was reported our SATs in math are second highest they've ever been. We're going through meeting with my administrators because the tests are all coming in, and they're all just, here you go, look at this. And so we're talking 20, 30, sometimes 40 percentile points higher than the state average in reading and English language arts.
That's wonderful. Wow.
Our staff, rock stars.
That is so important. Thanks ever so much. What choices do arriving parents have in the education of their children, and why should they strongly consider public education?
Uh, Hopefully everyone does their research and looks at the choices they have. And there are a few charter schools available. There's a new one starting up.
Uh-huh.
I don't believe that's a K-12 program. However, I think depends on what you're looking for, okay? Because this isn't all about just academics or sports or whatever. You look at the whole package. And nobody in a 100-mile radius, I think, can do what McCall-Donnelly School District can do for kids, whether it's activities, athletics, education. You get the small town environment, you get the high quality education, you get the small town sports atmosphere. There's nothing better ever. You build lifelong friends. You learn how to work as a team. The relationships. Our drama. I was so ecstatic, and I'm an old wrestling coach, so I'm not a music theater guy, But I went and watched, and it was awesome. Our kids. I mean,
did well.
It's really cool when we got a good set of kids, and then when other kids come in, they grow also, and it's pretty fun to watch.
We tend to talk about the strengths of our gifted and talented students, and I think McCall-Donnelly is doing really well in shaping their successes. I'm hearing great stories, but we came hoping that you'd have a strong special education program, and what we discovered in our third son is that both in the schools we participated in, which was the middle school and the high school, this is a superb area for special ed. And so I think for any newcomers that have those kinds of needs, I think they can be confident, yes, they're coming into a rural area, but they're coming into a rural area that really excels in a number of areas, including special ed. Have you had a chance to assess the special ed capacity of your district?
Mm-hmm. Again, I think it truly falls back in the strength of our staff. When you have great people, they can do great things. And then the structures are in place to allow students to get the services they need. And oftentimes that's tricky because you can have a small group of students with a diverse set of needs. And oftentimes in smaller districts, the funding is always an issue. From the state level and the federal level, special education is never funded adequately enough. But we do a great job of identifying needs and rolling up our sleeves and finding out what is needed. And, at the end of the day, it's all about individualized instruction. And so whether they're a special education student, a gifted and talented student, or a C average student, or a college, it doesn't matter. It's what does this student need? And, as we look through our assessments and our instruction, we can identify that and then do what's right for their kid.
Excellent. What mistakes do newcomers make or often make in establishing their children in public schools? And are there some different ways or different approaches you could recommend to help them streamline their kids into a new educational environment?
I think one of the most important things anybody coming new to a community, whether it's this one or any other community, is that, and it's not necessarily a fault, but it's sometimes a result of the situation. They're often busy. There's a lot going on. You're moving, but at the end of the day, at the end of the conversation, you need to get involved. You need your students to be involved, or your child to be involved through that lens. Activities, athletics, after-school programming, clubs, club sports, school sports. You want to be involved with other age-like students and children, and the parents need to get involved too. We welcome parents into the school, volunteers or employment. It doesn't matter, but the more you're involved in the school, the better success your kids will have. The more enjoyment you'll get out of your students' success. And the same thing I think goes for the community. The more you can be involved in your community, and it'd be small items to big organizations, it really doesn't matter. But that involvement, I think, is the number one thing as far as related to success and your enjoyment of entering into a new community. And the same with the school, which sometimes, unfortunately, is also one of the hardest things to do because there is so much going on when you're moving into a community. But involvement.
Yeah, thank you. Um, one of your primary tasks is moving numbers around on pieces of paper. And so it's tough making financial and staffing choices. That's a crucial part of your job. What do newcomers need to know to make your job a little bit easier when it comes to finances? And so what's that infrastructure that you wish you were better here, or you wish this didn't get done that way? What are some of the areas that a newcomer might appreciate?
I think in reference to finance and school funding, it's dictated by the state and the federal funding formula. So we don't have a luxury of just gratuitously spending money. There is no frivolous spending in education. It's all pointed, it's all focused on the vision and the mission. And at the end of the day, programs and activities cost money. And the more robust programs you want, the more it's going to cost. And so as we evolve and you look at funding formulas, Idaho is not one of the premier states in the country for funding. Let's just say that. There's a little bit of shock coming from Minnesota to here on funding per student. And so that's reflected in some of the activities.
And that's your shock that you didn't have the funding that you had assumed you might have gotten in another setting.
Correct.
Wow.
Correct. Yep.
And so speak to the foundation, because we seem to have a pretty strong foundation here that tries to help you fiscally. Speak to that and how a newcomer might be involved in something like that.
What a wonderful organization. You're talking McCall-Donnelly Education Foundation.
Yes.
Yeah. A great group of people. I just get to sit on the board. It's wonderful, and their whole mission is supporting kids. So the two pieces I've really been involved in, when I first got here, I got to see the scholarship results, and then now watching the new applications for their yearly scholarship thing, and their mini grant program, for lack of a better word. And some of the results and what's going on in the classroom is pretty exciting. Even more so, the conversation the last couple meetings has been, what big ticket item? So that conversation's come up. And I'm like, wow, this, the brain power on that group and the passion that they have for kids. I'm like, I can't wait to see what they can come up with. So, but they help, and anything helps. We've gotten some other donations from some organizations and private people. It all helps, because it all goes at the end of the day to kids. So,
what are we missing as far as our support structure for finances? Idaho's weak. You've been in other states. Mm-hmm. What would you lobby for, if you could, as far as improving our educational output with adequate resources on the input? What's missing there?
Politics are politics. So different states, different philosophies, but and don't quote me exactly on the numbers, but I believe it's supplemental levies across the state. There's $225 million collected for supplemental levies. And that means the communities have to go out and ask the community every 2 years for a set amount of money. Like Coeur d'Alene, I believe, is a $20 million levy. Others go down to a couple $100,000. But that all has to be done every 2 years. So I would love to lobby our legislators to say, hey, every year the state schools have to come up with $225 million additionally from what we fund in our formula. But why don't they just evaluate that and then restructure the tax system and take care of that, so we're not going to the polls every 2 years, in essence, begging for money. Now, McCall-Donnelly School District doesn't do a supplemental levy. We were fortunate enough in 2007 to get a set amount of money because of the cost of living, and I think there's 4 districts in the state that get this additional funds. Unfortunately, though, that money will never get more. So let me rephrase that. That money will never grow, and so it's flat. So that $5 million in 2007 would be, with CPI, would be equivalent to $8 million today. So we're $2.5 million upside down from where we were in 2007. So those conversations, I think, need to go on, and the evidence is out there. Okay, this funding is an issue. right now we are what, $250,000 upside down on our bus contract. That means we get approximately $600,000 a year in funding from the state, and our bus contract costs over $800,000. So,
ouch.
Yeah. So you take all these pieces into consideration, and to safely get our students to school, it costs money. And so, and gas prices at $5 a gallon right now.
Yeah, upside down makes sense.
Yeah.
I'd like to use your advantages as new eyes. Walk us through the buildings that you have now walked through. And if you were to identify some key issues that you would love to wave a magic wand over this district, what would you love to do in the high school or the middle school or the elementary schools? Is there something you would sort of invite our newcomers to also see so that possibly they might help in improving the infrastructure that we have, the buildings we have? How would you wave your magic wand?
So my magic wand, like right now, the quality of our buildings are fine. Okay, we don't have an issue, and I say that with our school buildings. Okay, the size, we're not, our growth rates, we're quickly going to be outgrowing our buildings. If things continue, I can see in 3 to 5 years that we may have to have more conversations about the new construction that's starting in 2 weeks in Donnelly. I mean, this valley is growing. So as far as what we do and set aside the quality, the high school, for us to be able to offer additional classes, especially in the CTE area, whether it's ag or computers or a more robust welding or woods, we would need to expand our shop programs. And then the same thing would go to the middle school. It would be nice to have a more robust CTE so we can start really focusing on career and college. And then the other magic wand is, I don't know if you've seen the district office.
I have.
It's in
I have been in this very small administrative office of yours.
Ideally,
you sort of turn as you move through.
Yes. And it was really fun when I first got in there. They're like, the water is that color. It's just, the toilets are flushed. It's just the water's.
That's the color of the water in that building.
And they're like, and you can't drink it. I'm like, all right. So that's just, it is what it is. And we don't have a designated board space. We don't have designated meeting spaces. Yeah. And so ideally we'd like to, and we looked into it. Unfortunately right now the cost was ridiculous. And when you juggle the priorities, that's not a priority for me. So staff housing kind of trumped that, and we need to be able to recruit and retain. So the district office would be something, with some public meeting space, boardroom, some offices, and some potable water would be awesome. So
sounds like pretty.
Yeah. So, and lastly though, and I'm glad you brought that up, because with being in a mountain community and winters the way they are, we don't have a great space in the wintertime or the springtime for sports and athletics. I would love to create a scenario where we have an indoor space that could be tied together for school and public use, an indoor walking track with a field house. So our community can come in and exercise during the wintertime. Or, and I think that would be just wow. So but we're talking magic wand, and that's what I wish for.
I'm going to take you back to one point, because I think there's a distinction in the rural communities that tend to have a focus on the trades versus the urban communities that tend to have a focus on college. And that just, I'm painting a broad brush here. But could you speak to how we can do a better job on that CTE, how we can do a better job of making sure that students are as encouraged to go into CTE as they are to going into college? Okay. What's the secret sauce there that we need to spend some time on?
This is personal to me, and because it hit home. My son, A student, state champion wrestler, life's great, going to college, has an injury, can't wrestle in college. Okay, so doesn't like college, doesn't want to do college, so shows me this program, this 4-year program to be an electrician. Like, go for it. That's awesome. So no college debt. He's making a lot of money. retirement. He's investing in his own retirement at the age of like when he was 20, when he just started as an intern. So there's so many benefits to that. And so it made me really rethink things. And so a fundamental middle school philosophy is you have your exploratories, which that would be awesome to be able to just demonstrate these are career fields. This is what you need for these career fields. Let's explore. Let's, and then when you get into high school, setting up opportunities for students to get into internships, okay, and maybe partnering with construction and plumbing and electrical and HVAC and all that, and just giving them that taste, because you see the pendulum swings in our country, so we went from the trades to, it's all about math and science in college, and now it's like, we've got nobody in the trades, and what a great career, so I think just the opportunity to investigate career options would be amazing.
Wonderful. That speaks to it well. Thank you. Was there anything we missed that, as you reflect on it, that you would like to sort of make sure we covered tonight? Or was there anything you'd like to amend on anything that you've said tonight? Is there either anything that's sort of gnawing at you right now?
No, I think it was a great conversation, but I would like to reiterate that if you are coming new to the community, check out the community. Come to the school, give us a call, district office, any of the buildings, get involved. So just a plug, we have a dynamic, amazing school district with phenomenal teachers, phenomenal staff. Our paraprofessionals are great. Our teachers are great. You name it. That was one really amazing thing coming into the district that I was able to witness. So we are the show in town, and we do great things.
Okay, so let's build a pathway for a new parent. A new parent has a child in each, as if they had a child in each section. So start in the elementary schools and just build a pathway for them. Where do they go? What should they do for our elementary newcomers?
The easiest answer to that question is you simply get on our website and you call the district office.
Okay.
It's right, the information's right there. And then typically you'll get Bianca, who, everybody knows her, loves her, she's awesome.
Yes.
So she will direct everything to answer all questions, align them, because it depends where you live also, whether it's a Donnelly Elementary or Barbara Morgan Elementary. So just based on the address, she can say, this is the school you'll be going to, this is the zone, here's your contact information, everything from supply lists to whatever, to getting in there in the schools and meeting the principals, the office the staff. And so that would be the simplest way, whether it's elementary, middle school, high school, whatever. So.
And would that be the place, if you were wondering which high school they should be attending, it really behooves them to go to the administrative office to get some guidance on which way.
Yeah, and I don't want to say don't call the schools. You can obviously call that.
Please do.
If you got any questions at all, the district office will easily, quickly, efficiently direct them where they need to go to get their questions answered at the level they need answered.
You're also a good educator, and every educator wants to finish with a summarization of really what they want people to remember. What do you want them to remember?
In reference to McCall-Donnelly School District and the McCall area, great place, phenomenal place. Come give our school a look. We will not disappoint.
Wonderful. Thank you for your time in a busy season, and we hope that people will take an opportunity of enjoying your comments, and hopefully it's easier for them to discover some important things about McCall. Thank you, Superintendent.
No problem.
Well, thank you for watching our McCall College Community Conversation on Discovering McCall, Helping Newcomers Succeed. And I do think we've succeeded on our mission for that goal tonight. And if you have someone who is in the educational arena, whether they're coming in as faculty or they're coming in as students, I trust you've gotten some wonderful information on how to make that easier for your transition here. This series is sponsored by a grant from the Idaho Community Foundation's Perk H. Shelton and Gladys A. Pospisil Shelton Foundation supporting Valley County. And their goal for this grant is to help us communicate better. And we're thankful for the opportunity of using YouTube better so that we can communicate with each other. There will be recordings of this series, and that will be available on the youtube.com/McCall College website. Next Thursday, we have another wonderful conversation. We'll be having that conversation at 7 p.m., and we'll be talking to Lindsay Harris, and she's our director of the McCall Chamber of Commerce. And so her goal in the conversation is to help newcomers succeed at business opportunities. And she'll have some wonderful things to say about succeeding in business, because business is different in our area. And so I would look forward to seeing how she can help us in that conversation. Please invite your friends and especially any newcomers to watch. Until next week, discover more about McCall and the wonderful West Central Mountains. I'm Dr. Bryan Williams, serving as president of McCall College. Thank you for watching.